All right. Good late evening. Good late evening, warriors, patriots, and all of my friends and family and followers on my public page. I'm Bianca Gracia, president of Latinos for America First, president of Latinos for Trump, the organization. I haven't come to you live in a very long time. As you all know, that the ones that follow me, I obviously have been pretty much all over the place. And so it's difficult to do these lives, but this one warranted an emergency. As you guys know, I've been covering the border, going down to the border. I'm not a journalist, I'm more of an activist. I was very pivotal in getting out the vote for President Trump, obviously, and all of our conservative elected officials. That's what I was working on. So I'm not a journalist. I always say that. But this warranted an emergency, guys. I cannot tell you. I've been introduced to Mr. Mike Miller here. As you guys know, I went out to Del Rio in Kinney County and met some wonderful people out there. We talked about the crisis, and it's no longer a crisis. It is now an invasion, is what I call it, at the border. And I've been talking about this on Steve Bannon as I was talking to Mike here. And many other, listen, I'm La Conservadora Tejana on 1440 Keys every Monday morning at 8 a.m. with Bob Jones. So I've been talking about this issue for quite a while now. But I talk in generality, right? In general, because Border Patrol agents or people that live at the border give me information. They tell me what's going on. But this is you have, Mike, real life stories, real situations that have actually are occurring in your ranch, things that have happened to you. So first and foremost, I want to introduce you to the audience. And guys, let's get this number up. Let's start sharing this. Let's get this going, because what Mike is going to tell you is going to blow your mind. Literally, Mike, today when I talk to you, I want you to know that it took me hours as you dumped all this information. My head was, Mike, I didn't even know what to do. It was exploding. So I didn't know which direction. I was like, how am I going to help? But the best way that I can help you is getting your story out. What you have to say. We need to get it out and bypass, because the mainstream media obviously isn't going to tell anything about what you were telling me. So first and foremost, guys, please let's share this. Mike's going to tell us some very crucial things that have been happening on his land. Mike, first tell our audience who you are, a little bit about you and your background.
All right, so I am a native Texan, born and raised here in Texas State. I went to a little school, North Texas, called Troy High School. Great education there. You know, we had agriculture teachers and teachers that taught us more than just regular things in school. They taught us life lessons, shop class. Even today, those people are people I still look up to. Went on into the United States Air Force after going to Temple College. Retired medically after losing the use of my left eye in Operation Enduring Freedom. So if you're on the left side of me trying to get my attention, I'm not ignoring you. You bet. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I believe in America. I believe in Second Amendment rights. I believe in standing up for what's right. And a little bit about me is I've been affected by this, and I think Bianca sees this 100%. 3 different encounters I've had, close to death experiences, I guess you could say, where my life was threatened. And I'm going to get into those, but I need everybody to go to these different platforms, Facebook, Instagram so far, and look for Warriors for Ranchers. I'm starting a nonprofit organization that is founded on the principles that farmers and ranchers are the pioneers of our country. These men have plowed the soil, put out the hard work. They supply our stores with nutrients. They ranch these animals, and they do it from before you and I wake up to the point where we're already getting ready for bed. They're just hanging their hat. These are the men and women who care about us more than we could ever know, and they're the ones being affected by this greatly today. So I want you guys to know that the story I'm about to share is just one of many, and I'm choosing to be a voice for every single rancher across the state of Texas and across the United States who hasn't taken the time to stand up and talk about these things. Many of them are afraid. And I want to be a voice for you.
That's
And
right. So yes. So Mike, first, thank you so much for being courageous and bold, because I know from talking to ranchers, from talking to some of the people out in the rural communities, because I've been going out there and talking to people, and there is a fear because they live there. I don't. I come and go, but
right.
they live there. They have to, they're under. Look, I mean, there's illegals everywhere. There's cartel people everywhere. Crime is up, and they said, when you live in a populated area of 2,000 or less, it's easy to find you probably, right? Because you're not in a heavily populated area. Not that you can't be found in a heavily populated area, but it's a little bit more dangerous. So I get it. I understand why people don't want to come forward, but I'm going to commend you for being bold. I want you to tell our audience really quick here, what happened to you 2 weeks ago first. I want to really talk about what happened to you 2 weeks ago, that you were telling me that happened on your ranch.
So 2 weeks ago, it's a hunting property. And so our property has lost tons of income this year because we are currently right now shutting down the hunting operations. We don't feel that it's safe for people to go out there. And that's really sad. And that's just our place. But we're putting feet out, and I'm checking the fence line because some of these animals, our costs are $5,000. And if a fence gets cut and they get out, well, that's our wallet. That's our money walking right through the fence. So we're checking
And
the fence.
I gotta tell you, I'm sorry, Mike. I gotta tell you that I didn't think, because I'm not a rancher, right? So I don't understand this, but I didn't understand that when people terrorize and go through do all kinds of things, right? They're breaking your water lines. I didn't know that at the end of the day, you guys are responsible for having to do those repairs.
It's us. And that's every single rancher in America right now, Bianca. Every single one of them. These things are happening. And I'm going to get to what you were asking me what happened 2 weeks ago. But let's tap on that for a second. Every single rancher that's affected by this. In the meeting I was in Uvalde at the Fairplex, one of the ranchers stood up and said, I had a truck that was stolen drive through 8 fences. 8. So if you're a rancher, you guys know it is $10,000 a mile to build a fence. $10,000 a mile. This guy drove through 8 fences. The headlights and the license plate to the vehicle fell off. They did the research. The vehicle was stolen, drove through his stock tank, and managed to get away. So no government assistance for that. There's nobody saying, hey, let me get you some money for these damages because we got immigrants terrorizing your property right now. That's just one story. So while I was checking the fence line at my place, I was shot at 3 rounds. 3 rounds. I had my brother in the UTV with me. And I got around to the gate. We weren't sure if they were shooting directly at us. We're pretty sure they were. The vehicle didn't get hit. Got to the gate. I've made great relationships with my Border Patrol agents, and we are very close to the checkpoint. I called them up. I was like, we are under fire. I need to get Asians out here now. I was you're scared. You're acting out of flight or fight at that point because I nearly lost my life. Having my brother with me. And you might ask, well, why is your brother with you? He was with me because my family didn't feel it was safe for me to go out to the ranch by myself anymore. And that's sad. Many times I've camped at this place. I felt completely safe. People have properties like this to get away from the city life, to get away, just to bring their kids and their family to be able to enjoy the great outdoors. Now, everybody who's watching this, it's very important for you guys to know, Bianca and I understand 100% that immigrants have crossed across the border for years. And we understand that immigrants have helped build this nation. That's a true statement.
Right.
We also understand that it is very difficult for immigrants to get to the United States, and there needs to be some processes and programs developed and put in place so they don't have to sneak, hide, and come across the border illegally anymore. I think with good programs, these folks can have honest jobs, come over here, help contractors work. But I was shot at by these drug cartels. And these are the guys that are unwelcome guests. We all have locks on our house, right? And we lock our doors because we want people to ask permission to come into our house. We don't want unwelcome guests. Well, guess what? When they quit building the wall, they open the door to every single unwelcome guest out there, and they are coming in droves. And when I tell you guys this, it was one thing to see maybe 1 or 2 illegals throughout the summer. We're seeing 60 freaking people a day, folks. 60, if not more. And our property's being called the head of the hurricane. And the reason they're calling it this is because the railroad passes right in front of our gate. These guys jump the train, cross onto our properties. Well, we're a hunting ranch. We got trail cams, right? We're getting more images of immigrants on our trail cams than we are the animals that eat the feed there.
Wow. So okay, so this time, what happened when you called the Border Patrol agents and they came out because you had gotten shot at and you were just trying to fix your fence? What happened in that incident?
So they know exactly where I'm at, and they come out in large numbers. These guys know that in the event that they've got weapons, whatever, they're going to come out in large numbers. I'm telling you, when I call these guys, they care about me. They do. They care about me and every single rancher in that area, the Uvalde Border Patrol. I salute you guys because you're badasses. And you wake up every morning and you put that uniform on and you do it for your family. But you know when you walk out that door, you're risking your life.
That's right.
These guys are risking their life. Think about this. They're doing their job with 400% more workload right now.
Yeah.
They are. They came out.
Our organization is very supportive of our Border Patrol agents, extremely supportive. So I hear you.
One of them. I care about every single hair on their heads. It's not that I just want to abuse my privileges to call them. That is the security beyond my means that they have to come and act. So these drug cartel members were hiding under the round culverts at the railroad tracks. So they'll cross through in the daytime and they'll hang out in those areas. They saw that we saw them. They were armed and dangerous. They made it all the way to the Nueces River. So they'll travel the railroad tracks, get to that river because they know that that river circumvents the Border Patrol checkpoint. So if they can cross through these ranches and sneak and trespass, get on the railroad tracks at night, follow the railroad tracks down to where it bends towards the river, they can follow the river to what highway? US 90. And there's usually somebody there waiting for them. And this is not an animal, folks. I think that some of our liberal politicians thought that the dogs are picking people up. They call them a coyote. And the coyote is the passport. That's the person that's paid. Right now, coyotes making $11 million a week smuggling immigrants.
What?
11 million a week.
A coyote.
A coyote's making 11 million a week. Smuggling immigrants, big business. Now that particular transaction may not be that much, but the data we were being told at this meeting is $11 million a week is being made on smuggling. So let's talk about growth. From January to now, there was 600 smuggling incidents, right?
Yes. Yes.
This alone, we had 350. That's a 400% growth. So the other number that was shared with me, 35,000 immigrants who want to get away got away. So that means that we have very expensive high-tech technology out there, but our Border Patrol agents are undermanned, and you know that they're spread thin.
That's
so
right.
These people who were detected on FLIR, which is our heat signature equipment that they have along the roadside.
And Mike, you know that the cartel knows that our Border Patrol is overworked and they don't have the resources. You know that they know that, right?
They know that. And they know that they're equipment too.
Yes.
We don't know 100% if the cartels have people on the inside either. Nobody knows that, right? If they're acting, they could have people communicating on the inside. And who knows if that's the place. But the big fact is this. Our Border Patrol agents are spread thin. These guys are worn out. They're tired. They're sustaining injuries on the job. They have to come back the next day, and they don't get the choice to say, hey, I'm wounded here. They're spread thin. Maybe the chief and all these folks are saying, hey, this guy's going to get some time off, but it's not going to be as easy. I don't think it would be as easy because these guys are getting beat up on the job. And maybe I shouldn't speak about those things, but I know for a fact they're being beat up on the job.
Well, they are. And interestingly, and you don't have to mention anything, but interestingly, you know, because you were at that town hall, and you know that there was a Border Patrol agent that got injured. And what was the reaction of our own government? They told him he had to go do what?
So this agent, his name will never be said, was working a big job out by my property. and 60 immigrants were detained. 2 helicopters came out that day. So think about that. We're just a hunting property. We've got helicopters flying in because they can use those helicopters to track their path, which make it easier to communicate. Because at that point, communication is the strength our Border Patrol has. They can tell the agents on the ground where to go to capture these guys, and they can get the canines out, and the canines can put their force in place. So they're using the best equipment that they got to do what they can. But one of the agents, when they rounded up these guys, they don't want to be captured. They just traveled from Del Rio to Uvalde. That's nearly 100 miles through some of the most treacherous hill country you can imagine.
And I've been out there. Yeah, I don't know how these people walk through that. I just don't. I don't get it. I'm like, and to think that children are walking through this. I'm like, it's desolate out here. It's like desert. It's like wild, wild west. It's like, I mean, it's just crazy. I can't believe that they make that journey. So, okay, he doesn't want to get captured, and then what happens?
Right. When he doesn't want to get captured, he's going to resist arrest. So on multiple different occasions, Border Patrol agents who are my friends have been shot at in Brackettville. And the one image that I sent you of the trail cam photo, the guy wearing the green and black, that was the gentleman that was brought to my attention, was armed and dangerous, who later that morning, it was like 9 o'clock on the trail cam photo, right? We had a gentleman and his young daughter were going to hunt for a pig out of that blind. She's a young gal, never hunted for a hog before. It had been her first pig. And we have other blinds on the property. We give our blinds names, and we call the blind the swine blind because it's where a lot of people have had success hunting pigs, wild hogs. And as you know, those animals are highly populous here in Texas, and people enjoy coming out to pursue them because the meat's delicious. So with that being said, we chose a different spot. What would have happened, Bianca, if we would have had a young gal sitting in that blind by herself, 9 o'clock in the morning, and that guy walked by armed and dangerous, when we know these men are abducting children for sex trafficking, harvesting and selling their organs, amongst many other morbid things that are taking place? Why is America not talking about this? I'll tell you why. It's the uncomfortable conversation. It's the one that needs to be spoke of. They're harvesting organs. They're trafficking our children. They're pushing drugs. And in one case, I was told that even infants, like a 3-month-old baby, they clean out its interior organs, they stuff it with heroin or cocaine, sew it back up, put its clothes back on, just to throw the carcass away once they get the drugs to its destination. That is sick, people. These are babies.
I know that was very disturbing when you were telling me this story this morning. I don't think people can. I don't think anybody can really comprehend that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, did you just say that they literally murder these babies?
They disembowel the child and they stuff it with drugs.
Wow.
I guess because everything else just didn't work anymore, Bianca. They stuffed them in car tires. They put them in hay bales. They put them in trailers. They've put them up their anus, whatever, to try to transport these drugs. And now babies.
Wow.
Livestock, and they kill the livestock when they get it to its destination. There's even more methods, but this is stuff that was brought to my attention. Now, I want to speak in defense for the immigrants that are coming across. These folks are coming across in large droves because I believe they're being influenced. They're wearing shirts, and those shirts say, "Biden, please let us in." There's massive amounts of these shirts, Bianca. And I'm sure they're going to want to blame Trump and say that he's mass producing shirts and he's giving them to these people. That's not taking place.
Yeah, exactly.
He said in his last address that these borders are going to have places of water and that needs to be taken care of. He was concerned about these things. He knew in advance if these areas did not get protected, that we're going to have problems with breach. And those problems are probably right now, there's probably 200 people on the Rio Grande River lined up to float the river to get to the other side. And then from that point, you and I both know they don't have a clear, concise path on how to get here. Many lives were lost during the Texas cold snap. I showed you a very morbid picture of bone remains. So you know what it's like when you see deer in the woods that dies of natural causes. The vultures peel away the skin, and what's left is just a carcass. And this gentleman here in Texas found many of those on his property. And this is somebody's son. This is somebody's dad. I believe it was a male. It was very hard to tell, but these were images shared with me at the event that we were looking at. And you're going to show that image?
Up something here. Is it this one?
I can't see it.
Hold
so
on.
small.
Is it this one right here? Hold on. Let me see.
No, that's the guy trespassing my place at night.
That's the guy trespassing your place at night right here?
4 paid hunting guests that night, and that was the
Are you
guy.
talking about this guy right here?
This is the guy that was armed and dangerous that shot 3 rounds at our agents in Brackettville.
Okay, hold on. I don't know why. Hold on. Let me try to do this. Hold on. Let me try to redo that. Hold on a second, because for some reason, let me go back and share this screen again.
Yep. From my perspective, it made them really small squares, like when you look in a bunch
Yeah,
of mirrors.
I know. That was weird. Let me see if I can get this to do now. Let me see if I can do it.
And please,
now.
and people, we're not showing this image to be gross. We're showing this image
I'm
because
not doing it. Yep. Yeah. Hang on, Mike. Sorry. I'm trying to see how to share the screen, and I'm trying to.
While you're doing that,
I'm telling it the entire. I don't know why.
Right.
Boxes, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So
go ahead. Keep going. Keep talking about what. Yeah.
She's looking for the picture of the immigrant that basically froze to death. So these immigrants are coming across our borders very ill-equipped. They don't have this is where they sleep at night at our ranch. They drop our blinds over and they lay the chairs like that so that the wind doesn't hit them while they're sleeping. And they were using the cover of the blind as a pillow. Yep. So the other question.
I'm trying to figure out why in the world. Yep. Why they go. I'm trying to show that screen and it will not let me do it. It kind of gives me a bunch of windows, but I'm sorry about that. I'll see if I can mess with it here in a minute. Let me know. Yeah.
To talk things. So maybe we can have it ready the next time. So
yes, absolutely.
Coming across, and we talk about loss of lives on the America side, but I want to talk about loss of lives on the immigrant side, stories people aren't hearing. You guys can find these stories on the Uvalde police blog, the Uvalde sheriff's page. But earlier this summer, these immigrants are crossing through, and they're coming through 100 miles of Texas, which is mesquite and rattlesnakes. We have big cats like cougars, mountain lions in Texas. Matter of fact, we have them been seen on our property, and I can share with you a picture of how big these cats are. They take down a 150-pound animal like it's nothing. So imagine a 5-year-old little kid wearing a little white shirt in the middle of the night, trying to find their way through the ranch. They don't have a chance against that cat. And those cats show no mercy. They actually kill for sport. And these kids they're susceptible to that. But the story I want to talk about is when the 16 immigrants were crossing on the railroad tracks, and they were afraid to go on the ranchers' properties because they know there's a high possibility of getting caught. But they're afraid to sleep under trees because they know that snakes exist, and they don't think there's as many snakes on the railroad tracks. They found refuge on the railroad tracks, 16 of them. And if I'm wrong in number, it was 16, maybe a few less, but I believe it was 16. And the agent that told me this story said, imagine having a hard day at work and coming to this and seeing 32 different tennis shoes on the ground with feet in them because these guys got ran over by Amtrak because they thought they would hear the train wake them up. These lives.
Did that story come out? Was that story anywhere in the mainstream media?
No.
Was it on local news?
What's that?
Was it on the local news?
I don't believe it was on any of them. I don't watch a lot of news, so I can't vouch for that, to be honest. But I know that it's on the police blogs. I know it's on the sheriff's page. A lot of this stuff is morbid. I mean, one of the hunters at the meeting found 2 bodies in his hunting blinds. They were deceased after the cold snap. They probably hyperventilated in there sleeping. And he found a truck and a driver dead at the front of his gate. This is a little old man, probably late 70s. After I got done speaking at this Uvalde Fairplex, I had a lot of people come to me and tell me their story.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told you, Warriors for Ranches, I'm going to be the voice for them. So I don't know these people's names. I just remember exactly what they told me. And I need to be better at that. But you can imagine there was 250 people in that room.
Right. Was this
Congress,
the first time, Mike, was this the first time that you attended a meeting?
this was the first time I attended a meeting. As a matter of fact, U.S. Customs is who invited me there because
And
it felt
so
like I was one of the ones that was being hit the hardest.
being hit the hardest because of your business.
The business, but our location. We are the final property right before the Border Patrol checkpoint. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
they're offloading on our property to circumvent the checkpoint, and we're being hit. So I told you about me being shot. I want to talk
Yeah.
about another. So just like anybody else, right? I've had a long day at work. I grabbed my cell phone. I'm texting my wife, "Hey, honey, I'm at the gate. I want to let you know I'm on my way home." It's 10:30 at night, and I look to my right, and I got two of them trying to hijack my truck. They are running as fast as they can, and they had carpet tied to their shoes. They're trying to be smarter than the agents because tying carpet to their shoes makes their footprints harder to trace.
Correct.
And
Correct.
our agents take measures to try to track these folks that way.
Right.
And
Correct.
when I do this, we have some amazing Border Patrol agents, and they take these jobs extremely serious, and they're damn good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got folks like this, they're dressed in solid black. They look like terrorists, and at that point,
Right.
they would have killed me for my truck.
What did you do, Mike? What did you do when you saw them running towards you?
I threw my phone in the other seat as fast as I could. I'm fighting to get the truck into drive. Got the truck into drive, and I jumped the tracks. There was no train coming. I was already stopped. Hit the tracks, went on the other side. Called Border Patrol, told them I had two guys in pursuit of me. They're on the tracks at this location. This is where I last saw them. They headed out to get them, but those two guys got away. But where they got was our cabins. They went onto the property. They got water from the property. They invaded our refrigerator, which is out in our pavilion. And I found there was a big 2-liter bottle in one of the guy's hands. And when he was running, he was holding it almost like a cane, right? Like a bat, because his water bottle was empty. So we have a windmill on the property, and they come onto the property to get their water there. They've destroyed our tanks that hold our water. They pulled the float out that feeds all the cabins, the 4 cabins out there. And when that happens, that septic tank doesn't get hydrated. So the septic smell comes up. It ruins everything. And
this is something that then you have to pay for to get fixed.
Yes, my business partner and myself, we pay to get this fixed.
And you told me that you've been losing business because there's typically people come from around the world to hunt at your ranch, and they've been canceling because of the crisis, because of the invasion is what I call. I don't even call it a crisis anymore. It's the invasion.
It's an
invasion. It's not safe out there for people to be out there. To be honest, it's not really safe to have people out in a cabin anywhere hunting because, there could be somebody that comes out.
Bianca, we're good business people. We care about our clients. And there's been multiple times where our clients have come out, and the amount of immigrants that come through ruin their hunting. I mean, when a deer's bedded down, that's where they're going to stay for the night. But imagine all the noise of these guys coming through in the middle of the night. They're scaring these animals out of their habitat. And so when the day comes out, and these animals, it was very hard to track their patterns at this point, So some of these didn't have success. So we invited them back on our nickel, and we fed them, and we housed them, and we did it because we care. This has been a tough time for everybody. During the pandemic, we had one of our hunters lost his job, and we made sure to give him an extra night stay because we cared about him, and we didn't like hearing that. And he had his little girl with him because they've been basically bunked up forever during this pandemic, and they came to us to get some freedom. And during that time, this is what they had to deal with. We want to have a place where these folks can come and experience something magical. Hunting's been for generations. It's not just about killing an animal. It's sharing that with family. Our forefathers did it with us. And so my business partner and his family have another 20,000 acres in La Prairie, and their whole family has done it for generations. And to be able to share this with him is an honor for me. But our customers deserve that same care, and that's what we want to give them. But it's been very difficult. This is just us. Many other ranches in Texas have given up. They're being forced to sell their properties. Forced in the means that there is so much traffic coming through that one of the couples, I believe, was in their late 70s. They've lived there for 20 some odd years. Their cabin's been broken into so many times. They sold this year. 3 of my neighbors have sold the properties out there, and I believe we're currently for sale right now, our ranch is. And the owners, my business partner's family, is basically scared to go out there. And that's sad.
That's really sad to know that about our ranchers and our hunting properties that, you know, people obviously hunting as a sport, you know, people hunt, there's hunting season. It's really big here in Texas. And so something else you said to me, and I won't go too much into specifics, but some of these ranchers you said are being offered 3 times the amount that their ranch is worth.
I'm
And
sure if you
why do you think that is? Are the cartels buying this up, or what is your gut, or what is your hunch telling you?
my gut's telling me this. I'm gonna say it, America, because it's on the tip of my tongue. They're making 11 million bucks a week, right, Bianca? So if they're making that kind of money, they have power to buy land. And if they want to move in and infiltrate, right, they're going to buy out the ranches closer to where they need to operate, right? They're going to offer them this money because they have it and it's liquid. But I'm hearing from a lot of the ranchers, it's Chinese firms. I'm not going to name names of firms till I know 100%.
Right.
But there's certain firms you and I discussed that name's pretty predominant around here. And they're offering these little farmers 3 times the money than the market value for the property. And we know for a fact they've bought 180,000 acres of land around Texas wind farms down south.
I was going to say that when I was in Del Rio, the ranchers were telling me that they were very upset about that. And I said, why isn't it that our people or our millionaires aren't buying these ranches? And they said, honestly, number one, they can't afford them because the Chinese, they said, that bought this land offered 3-4 times more than the land is really worth.
Right.
And what's happening is that they also said that a lot of these ranches have been pretty much, you know, like they belong to the grandparents or the parents, and now the children have it, and nobody wants to go and keep it up, or they don't want to maintain it, or there's no cell phone service, or whatever the case is, right? Whatever, there's no civilization. So it's just easier when you get offered money, and you know, if you're young and you're not going to go out there and do it, and your parents are gone, your grandparents are gone, and so therefore you're not going to maintain the ranch. So this is what the ranchers were telling me when I went to Brackettville. They said these people are selling because of that, because they're being offered so much money, and honestly, they're not going to come out here and maintain the land, so they'd rather just sell. It's just easier for them to sell. And who wouldn't take that kind of money?
Right.
So my wheels were spinning because I said, you're literally telling me China is buying our land? And you know, we've heard about all this stuff. Now you've heard about the election being stolen, you know about election interference, you hear the Chinese had something to do with it, the pandemic had something to do with the Wuhan lab coming from China. The Chinese seem to be behind a lot of things. However, it's like, can we prove it, right? Everybody's like, oh, these are conspiracy theories. Well, we do know that the virus came from Wuhan lab. That's proven. Second of all, we do know that the Chinese bought that land that you're talking about based on the fact that, you know, the deeds, right? The title company, you can research that information. So the locals there, they know who bought the land because, you know, it's not a secret. It's not an anonymous buyer.
Right. It's public.
You know, yeah. And it's on the title. So you can pretty much find out who those landowners are. And I said, why do you think they bought there? You know, there's a lake they said, because there's a lake nearby. So there's a beautiful lake from what I hear nearby. So there's, you know, obviously somewhere near water. But then they also told me that they felt that they bought there because of that windmill. The Chinese are trying to get into our grid, have some kind of control of our grid. And so you're seeing this, but see, that may be for other reasons, but you guys, you know, like say this older couple you said sold.
Sure.
You're saying that, they were there 20 years. How many
Their,
acreage would you say they had?
their cabin was ransacked. I think I told you the story. They had guns, money, and groceries. The two things that were stolen was the groceries and the money. These people didn't care to get the guns. There's a lot of immigrants that pass through that just want safe passage, and they're doing by whatever means most people would do. Food, water is what they have to survive, and most of them don't want to carry a lot of things. If they don't have a backpack, they're stuck carrying that water bottle the whole remainder of the trip. So to have food to nourish their bodies, water to get them hydrated, that's what they care about the most, and they want to just get through safe passage. So talking about our ranch owners, I want to talk to you about a couple of conversations I've had. We all go to the feed store. Almost everybody in the ranch industry, they feed their cattle, right? And I'm hearing stories of how many people aren't going out to the ranches as much to feed their cattle. Some of them are fearful. It's the older generations. And while I was there, one of the ladies who come up to me, she goes, "You're Mike, I know who you are." And we made a connection. And she said, "I need you to get this out." She said, my husband's truck was stolen the other day. And she said, "We use that to get to church. We use that truck for me to get back and forth to work. It's one of their main vehicles." It wasn't a ranch vehicle. It's their personal truck. There's more and more communication going around that the Ford F-150 is being the most targeted vehicle out there. So if you guys own an F-150 and you know that you have immigrants coming across your property, take extra measures to protect your vehicle right now. The next time you and I come on, I want to send you a whole host of pictures, video that I've been getting from my source that has trucks that have been lit on fire, trucks that have been stolen, that are left in the middle of a ranch that the ranch owner's having to call and say, I found a vehicle. These people's vehicles that we pay good money for monthly are being stolen. And of course, everybody has insurance, right? But who has to pay that deductible? That person who lost the vehicle has to pay the deductible. Nobody's saying, "Hey, this border crisis is affecting everyone. Let's create a stolen vehicle stimulus." You know what I mean? There should be something to say. These incidents are coming from the powers that be above. Biden stopped the building of the wall. But I want to talk about that. That wall was funded by American taxpayers, right? And without having my phone, you probably know this, there was a law written in 1974 that protected budgets. And I'm pretty sure if you read the gray area on there, somebody's crossing lines and boundaries they shouldn't be. Money was funded by the American people. That is equipment that's being rusted. It's rusting and it's not being used like it should to finish this wall.
Correct. I was down in the border, and that's what Admiral Kubik was showing us, that the rusted material that was just left there, they put a halt on it so they couldn't finish the wall, but yet the contractors are still getting paid for doing nothing because they have to still pay the contract, but they're not allowed to do their job. And so you literally see all of the equipment, like miles of it, just rusting, just sitting there doing nothing, with gaps in the wall everywhere.
So there was plenty of millionaires in the room that I was sitting in. One of the ladies stood up and she said, "Can we just start a GoFundMe to build the wall?" I'm pretty sure if Texas knew that if they could donate money to something this valuable, that we could probably fund this ourselves. But it becomes more of an issue of whose toes are we stepping on at that point? Are we stepping on toes? Do we not, as American people, have the right to say, we want to feel safe? We've got men and women who are living the last days of their lives, Bianca, 70, 80 years old. And I'm not saying that's old people, but they're older folks. There's a lot of old folks that are very healthy in their 80s.
Well, let me tell you, since you're talking about building the wall, obviously there's been efforts about that, raising money to build the wall and finish the wall and things like that in the past, and that there was issues with the, I believe, government. Of course, they'll step in. They won't let you build the wall. But what I do know is that Friday, May 7th, is the deadline for Representative Chris Patty to move House Bill 2862 concerning the border security and the completion of the wall to a hearing phase, and then to the floor to be voted on. It is imperative that you and everyone call Representative Chris Patty, and we have his number. It is 512-463-0556. And to stress the importance of House Bill 2862. So I urge everyone to share Representative Chris Patty, and urge him to move House Bill 2862, which addresses the border security and the compensation to finish the wall, for Texans to finish that wall. It says also call Governor Abbott, 512-463-2000, and also stress to him how important it is to secure the border and complete the border wall construction as soon as possible. And anyway, they say, please be very polite. This is what they tell me, right? Well, nothing about Bianca's ever polite when I call them. I basically tell them I'm demanding. And you know why I demand? Because you know what? When I work as an activist, when I work really hard and I go out, and whether it's I get volunteers to block walk, phone bank, or I go out and create events, do community service events, engage, all of the work that I do, I do it for free. So as a volunteer out there, I'm doing this for free. So who puts in hours and hours and hours of my time to advocate for conservative principles and conservative leaders. And when those conservative leaders don't do their job, you better believe I'm going to call them and demand answers. I don't have time. I'm not a person who just went to work 8 to 5, don't know what's going on, and I'm going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I kindly need you to do this. No, I'm going to say, you know what? When I put in thousands of hours of work to make sure that I'm fighting for Texas, and I'm fighting for America, you better believe I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you accountable every single time. I don't call and ask nicely. I'm sorry. I'm past the asking nicely, especially when I hear the stories from all of the people that are enduring all of this. So I want to go back really quick too. From the 2 weeks ago that you were shot.
Right.
I just want to know, you said you've had the 3 incidents there, and you haven't talked about the one with your wife and your daughter. But when you got shot at, you told me something today. You said these guys are heavily armed.
They are.
It's not just a little pistol or a little 9mm. What were you being shot at with?
100 round magazines, drums they call them, that go into these deals. We have a president who is trying to reform gun control, right? But you and I both know that in my office I have weapons I hunt with, right? But those weapons are over there in the corner, and they're not going to hurt anybody. And an AR-15, as they call it, it's going to sit there in the corner. It's not going to hurt anybody. But when you put it in the hands of a criminal, a person that has intentions of hurting someone, somebody who's mentally ill, that wants to cause havoc to our nation, those are the people you need to control, not Americans. We deserve the right to bear arms in our country. You don't take that from people. You don't disarm people who are honest citizens. You don't do that. These unwelcome guests crossing our borders, they have the weapons that he doesn't like. And they have a lot more bullets than most of our Border Patrol at the time when they're carrying them. And the video that was shared at our meeting was, I got to get this video to you. It's on a slide. It's not my personal video, but it was a TikTok made by the cartels when they were driving down by Del Rio. If you remember that did make mainstream media. And they were actually using these weapons to scare ranchers or take out ranchers, steal their trucks so they could drop off more drugs and pick up more drugs. You saw the pictures from Van Horn, Texas. These drugs are not small. They're using full-size pack mules to these packages are massive of marijuana and fentanyl and all these different types of drugs that are coming across our borders. Our country deserves better, Bianca. We all deserve better. Our kids don't deserve to be raised in a country where it's okay to bring drugs across our borders. It's not okay to let people that are unwelcome bring in heavily armed teams of people all with matching backpacks and matching equipment that's being funded by these other countries.
Mm-hmm.
They're invading us. And right now, we're holding them the best we can at our border. But next thing you know, that's San Antonio, that's Austin, that's Dallas, that's your front door.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do then because you voted for the wrong people? These people that are just allowing this to happen without any repercussions. And let's talk about those things. You know, we had that conversation earlier today about when our citizens stood up at the meeting and they asked that uncomfortable question: what if I got put in a position where I had to defend myself on my ranch?
Right. I did
And
ask you that.
the conversation,
I'm still trying to see if I can get, I'm sorry, keep going, because I'm still trying to see if I can get I was trying to see if I could get the video actually that you sent me.
that was the day of.
But it's not letting me actually load it. So I was trying to get the video just to show, but it's still not letting me load it. I'm not shy. I'll have to mess with it some other time. But yeah, go ahead.
So at this time, the video she's trying to show you guys was I made the phone call to our Border Patrol agents. Agent Toro, I can say his name, I've been given his permission, is an amazing agent that serves the Uvalde sector. Him and one of his teammates show up at one of our back gates. The gates, some of these gates haven't been opened in years, so you can imagine cactus and everything's grown up, and it took a village to get the gate open because we keep those locked for a reason. And I gave them all codes, all access to our property. So for you ranch owners out there, the number one best thing that you can do, this is coming from the chief of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, give the Border Patrol agents access to your property. They're not going to come out there and destroy your property. They're going to come out there and protect and serve. If they have to circumvent your property, you're giving the immigrants a chance to get away. And some of these acreage properties are 20,000, 100,000 acre properties. And you can imagine how far and how long these agents have to drive to circumvent that land. If you just give them access to gates, let them allow on the property, they can stop them before they do any more damage to your land. We've given them full access to property. And there is a tower right now that has been designed. It's a solar powered tower. It's got FLIR technology on it. It is a smart system. And if you become a high priority, which our ranch is one of them, we will be getting one of those towers put on our power line road up on our property where we have a higher elevation where they travel to get to our water sources. And this will give, if you have cattle, the system's so smart that it will learn that it's cattle crossing. It's so smart that if it's you and your family that make, you know, on a schedule working on your property, they're going to know that it's you, or they will call and say, we detect something up there. We see bodies, as they call it, bodies being live, active bodies on the property. That's how they refer to them. And they'll see that, they'll call you and they'll alert if it's you. If it's not, then they're going to probably come out and search and see what's going on out there. But it gives them eyes in the field. This equipment it's replacing active feet on the ground. It is now feet on the ground because now it can be seen from other places. It saves them time, it saves them effort, and it gives them a fighting chance to catch these people. So that's something we have on the property. So let's go to my third story. You ready for that one? Is it time?
Yeah, no. Well, I was going to say on the video that I can't play it right now, but the video that you sent me, you were showing basically Border Patrol out doing what?
All right, I'm passionate. Agent Toro was called. I went around the loop on that. I'm so sorry. It is late tonight.
I know. I was like, wait, what happened to Agent Toro?
When Agent Toro was there, my brother was also with me. We got the gate open. I gave him access to the property. We were going after two guys that shot rounds at us. 60 people were apprehended. We had two helicopters in the air, one flying the river, one flying the railroad tracks. The one that flew down the railroad tracks was able to find the two guys, the two perpetrators they were looking for. They found them getting to the Nueces River. They apprehended them. They processed them. And then the other helicopter flew over a property closer to mine, and they captured the other folks, which was exactly around 58 more people.
Oh my God.
Bianca, when they do this, we're not talking one or two Border Patrol agents on the scene. We're talking 16 trucks and Suburbans and vans that they process these immigrants in, and these immigrants, they go through their belongings. They all get a bag. I know you've probably seen the processing where they take all their personal effects. They make sure they have no weapons. Those people's personal effects get put in a bag, and I'm sure later on that gets returned to them. But it's a way that they can account for everything that's going into their vehicles so that they know that they're safe and they can get
Right.
ID people.
Right.
So
So
I want to talk about
yeah,
that.
right. So they
$52
picked up
million taxpayer dollars is being spent to house these folks. We've got folks that have legal papers, Bianca, visas. They took the time, they got the paperwork. Are those folks allowed to cross our border right now?
no, the
But
people who have papers can come in.
these immigrants that don't have papers, they're getting La Quinta in 3 square meals a day. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to speculate, but quite a few people have spoken on various platforms. They're being given brand new cell phones. Who's paying that bill?
We are the taxpayers. Let me tell you what someone, I believe this is your congressional district, Tony Gonzalez, CD23?
Yes.
Who is that's your congressman?
I think that's probably ours. And we also have, I know in Uvalde, they have Dolly Schultz there as well. She came to the meeting.
Yeah,
Schultz.
she's probably Texas. She's probably Texas.
Yes, she's Texas.
Your representative in Texas. Yeah. No, this is Tony Gonzalez, your congressional.
I think Hernandez. I have his card. He couldn't be there, but his liaison was there.
Of course. Yeah, that's what happens. So one of our persons, somebody that we know.
Claire, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, one of our persons called Tony Gonzalez's office, and let me read you what they said. They spoke to his aide, Roberto Hab or something, they said, Hobby, and asked him directly, whether the congressman was supporting building more detention centers for illegal aliens. The aide said, yes, he is supporting that idea. Well, then our person said, he then told me to relax. This is what he told him. Relax, because the borders are closed and there is no reason to worry. And this person said, I told Mr. Hobby that he was full of crap, that the borders wide open, and cartels have invaded Texas and we're operating with almost no interference. I further told him Texas is done with Washington's BS and that he better saddle up because the political is rising in the Texas to close the border ourselves. So they said, here's Tony Gonzalez's number, 202-225-4511, and voice your concerns. So right now, you're telling me as a rancher, as a hunter, you have a business, you went to a Uvalde town hall, you had 250 other people there, you talked to other ranchers, all of y'all are having similar stories about what's going on. But yet we have Tony Gonzalez, who's your congressman, saying that you relax. The borders are closed. There's no one coming in. And he's for the if we need to relax and we don't have a reason to worry, why are you supporting building more detention centers?
Right. It's not that that's
what
going to be a never-ending build because they're going to continue to come. And I want it to be understood that I think everybody deserves the right to be free. And I think you'll get on that train with me, but they need to do it legally.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to just be coming across with their children, coming across these borders ill-equipped and unprepared, because a lot of them aren't making it right now. And that's not making the mainstream media. And Bianca, we're not talking about 1 or 2 people anymore. That was Texas history when we had 1 or 2 immigrants a day coming through. We're talking thousands since January. I think you and I discussed, it's over 200,000 plus immigrants have crossed through. The numbers I was given, Dr. Fauci and all those people in positions to be are talking about coronavirus, wearing multiple masks on your face, and we all should be scared because the coronavirus, right? 130,000 at the meeting. This was the numbers I was given. 130,000 immigrants tested, and 4.5% of them tested positive for COVID-19. That's 5,640
And they're all
infected.
Yeah, and they're all loose running around, but we shouldn't worry about anything. But yet Americans had to mask up, stay home, couldn't work, lost our jobs, lost small businesses. Well, yet these illegals can do whatever they want. And so here's another thing.
Let loose. I was at
That what was it?
downtown Uvalde, and that little lady that works there, I told you her story. She said a white bus, unmarked, pulled into the Tractor Supply parking lot. We're talking right downtown Uvalde. These folks weren't getting Starbucks. These folks fleed like ants on a mound, is how I described it to you. I wasn't there to see it, but she wanted me to know. They let them out right in the middle. She has a house back there. She has a family that she cares about. And she said, Mike, these people don't have money. They don't have a car, and they don't have shelter. What do you think they're going to do next? They're going to steal the car. They're going to steal the money, and they're going to find shelter by any means possible to survive. Once they're processed, they have, I believe, 6 months before they have to report to ICE. Do we really think these folks are going to be rushing there?
Yeah, and we've been getting the numbers. Actually, these haven't been, I think they're probably going to be coming out soon. They haven't been published completely yet because of the fact that we were going through April. So like at the third week of April, we've gotten numbers that we were hitting close to 600,000 illegals have already come through.
Right.
And then, you know, over 10,000 of them, I think, or more, way more, I'm probably very low on that number, had been released without court dates. So the Border Patrol agents are so overwhelmed. They have no resources that they're actually releasing these people without court dates.
I'm going to tell you another lady's story, if you don't mind. While we were
go ahead.
Meeting, we have all these women and men that care, right? One of the ranch stood up, raised her hand. She got a chance to speak, and she said, why can't we deputize citizens who want to volunteer? Agents on the ground need to be out there performing their duties, helping to chase these folks. That's what they're trained to do. They're being retrained to process immigrants right now. And she said, why can't we deputize men and women who want to volunteer to do this training, to do this job, to give some freedom to our Border Patrol agents who are better fit to be on the ground doing their job and what they're the best at. That's where these guys need to be. But as you hear, they're overwhelmed with processing. And one other thing go ahead.
But Mike, just to let you know, there are some, Border Patrol can't deputize people, but sheriffs can. And I do know that there are some sheriffs that I think today the number, I had gotten 32 in the morning, then later on they told me, hey, it's 36 counties now where the sheriffs are working with the county judges to pass state of disaster in their counties because they're being overrun. They have no resources. You know, those little small towns have maybe 3, 4, 5 police officers on staff, you know, so some of these smaller counties and smaller areas, they literally have been veterans. They've been talking, you know, whether somebody is associated with a militia, is trained, somebody who's trained, obviously. They're deputizing those people to help them out. So when they go out on calls, they're not alone. They don't go 1 or 2 people. You know, they got to call several people to come out there. So they are deputizing some of our citizens that are trained, or that the sheriff feels that they're trained enough to go out there. Just not necessarily are they all apprehending or anything, but they are out there as a show of force. So they're there with their weapons to make sure that the officers don't get injured themselves or shot at or killed. So they said we need to set up. They asked these citizens that are deputized to go and help them set up parameters, whether to wait for Border Patrol to come or set up parameters so they can process the people and, you know, apprehend them and take them to jail, you know, or do what they need to do, right? So there is some of that going on in some of our counties, but again, it's those small rural counties that have a 5-man, you know, unit that, or it's just very small, that they're saying, hey, you know, we have a group of men here that are fully trained. We got 10 extra people. Obviously, you can't, you know, that our small sheriff's departments cannot pay new officers, right? Because they don't have that kind of money. So this is making it easier for them, because they can just say, well, I deputize 10 of our, you know, guys who I know are trained. There are people, you know, we can count on them to come out. And they said, you know, some of the guys that I've talked to, one that has been deputized, and he said he's been out to help at nighttime mainly, you know, because it's dark. You know, a lot of these rural communities are not well lit. It's really dark. So they get a call for service or something happens, and they said, you know, hey, we go out and we just kind of assist with securing the perimeter and helping our law enforcement that's there, you know, help them process and help them do whatever needs to be done, whatever they ask us. But they don't, you know, these deputized citizens don't go and make the call themselves. They go and assist. And they're having to do that because of the fact that they don't have the resources or the manpower.
Yep. And the chief gave that woman the same exact answer you gave, is Border Patrol cannot deputize folks, but it's the citizens of Uvalde and the people of America that care enough to say, hey, if you could, we want to be there to help. And she's somebody who literally would have went and devoted her time to help with this crisis. And that's where our American people are right now. They were like, this is an absolute mess. How do we fix it? And what can we do to get there? So there was questions raised by
Mike, but Mike, across the country right now, regular people claim there is no crisis and nothing happening.
That's where the false story is, because you and I know the truth. People, if there's folks that don't believe Trump built a wall. People, he built 460 miles of wall. Shut your mouth if you hadn't seen it. Until you go to Texas and you see the wall, and the mainstream media is trying to say it's a failure. Bianca, if you and I wanted to climb a 6-foot fence, how big would our ladder have to be to get over the top of it? 7 feet, right? You just build a bigger ladder. Can these guys climb this wall? Absolutely. They have found ways to circumvent this wall. But it gives our Border Patrol agents a time, because while they're building these things, while they're getting what they need together to come over this wall, they're en route. It gives our guys an edge. Plus, it gives our equipment a chance to catch them, because they do have equipment that's monitoring our border right now. We need more.
Correct.
But because the wall is no longer being built, they're just going around it, and they're coming across in the water. And you and I saw the videos I shared with you. They are lined up. They're coming across on inflatable rafts. Now it's, where are they going from that point? And I'm pretty sure there's busloads of them going places.
I heard a sheriff today was being interviewed by George Rodriguez, a sheriff out from Maryland. One of the counties out in Maryland came out to the border. I don't know if he was in Texas or he came out to Arizona, but he went out to one of the border. I think he was in Arizona maybe, but he was describing his trip down here. He might have come out to Texas too, because he was trying to come and figure out, but George Rodriguez asked him, why would somebody from Maryland come out all the way out here to find out what's going on? He said, because right now, the cases, and the only cases that we're getting right now, is this cartel, and we're busting them with their trailers full of fentanyl, trailers full of illegals, trailers full of, you know, everything that you can possibly think of. And the amount of drugs that are being poured into our streets right now, they said, is it's huge. It's astronomical. It's nothing they've ever seen before. These sheriffs, all of them across, he interviewed 3 sheriffs. They all said, we have, in 20, 30 years that they've been, you know, in law enforcement, they've never had to deal with something like this. And he said that not only in Maryland, but even all the way up to New England, he's talking to the sheriffs all the way up to New England, and they're having a huge problem with fentanyl right now, pouring into their streets. So the sheriff from Maryland said, I also had to come out here to see, because he said he knew for a fact, right, that the cartels are getting on planes in, you know, from the southern border, which is Texas. He said the southern border in Texas. They're flying out to Maryland. They conduct their business, get back on a flight, and come back home.
Sure.
So they don't stay there long. They go and do their business and come back.
Cruise
He
movie.
said this is every day, all day is what he said. Every day, all day right now. This is all they're dealing with. So
Right.
he said, of course, we had to come down here and we had to, for ourselves, come talk to the sheriffs down here, right? To get firsthand knowledge. What in the heck are we going to do about this problem? And so, you know, and what we've got going. So anyhow, anyway, we went off on a tangent there, but let me go back to your third story, because you had another third story that's going to take us into something else.
Right. So, being that it's a hunting ranch, one of our guests successfully hunted a scimitar horned oryx, which that is an African animal that at one point was population was brought to Texas, and here in Texas it's grown. But he was very excited about it, and I want to give props to Uvalde Meat in Uvalde, Texas. It's an amazing little business. If you're going to process animals, you go visit Uvalde Meat. But we were there processing his animal, and I want to give props to Graves Taxidermy. They're a business, family-owned business. Browder Graves and his family's been doing this for generations. Started as a hobby, and he taxidermies the animal. So we support our local businesses, and we were actually taking this gentleman's animals to processing. When I came back to a horror story. And that horror story could have even gotten worse, but thank God for quick wit, right? I show up, there's a gentleman from the Honduras trying to break into the cabin with my wife and daughter in there. And at first glance, I'm seeing red because that's my wife screaming, that's my daughter screaming. And I had to step back, and I told you, I realized he was bleeding, this gentleman. And his right arm was lacerated, and everywhere he stepped with his right foot, there was blood on the ground. And so he sustained injuries, probably jumping razor wire, and he landed on probably rebar, and it went through his shoe, and it got him pretty good.
Ooh.
So as a father, as a husband, as a person with great responsibility, I had to sit back and go, this person has a life. And if I hurt this person because I'm angry, I'm going to suffer the consequences. But how far is this guy going to go? And is he armed? So I was a bigger person than him. And I approached him and I told him to raise his hands in the air. I said, okay, touch. You know, I don't know his language. He's from the Honduras, I found out later. He allowed me to pat him down. I made sure he had no weapons. He had a cell phone charger. He had a phone. And on that phone was a map to his coyote. And that phone was handed over to Border Patrol after I did what was something very fearful for anybody to do, is I fed the guy a meal on my property and allowed him to stay there because I cared enough. I could tell he was hungry. He needed water, but he told me electrical. So he wanted to plug his phone in. So I allowed him to charge the phone. We had some extra food from a meal we had that night. We fed him. I mean, he ate like a rabid dog. He was very hungry. But while he was eating, Border Patrol was en route. So I got a chance to tell them what had happened. But there was 2 hunting rifles fully loaded from the hunt where these gentlemen had brought their rifles. There wasn't anything in the chamber, but they had bullets in them. And they're sitting against the pavilion wall, which that's where we feel is a safe place to put them when they just get back. If that gentleman would have picked up those rifles when I wasn't there and shot and massacred my family, I can't get that back. And that's every single rancher out there who's got kids and wives that they care about right now. This is a real story. This is stuff that's happening to me and happening to my family. And you know what I'm being told? At that meeting, everybody raised their hand, and I stood up and I go, I've nearly died 2 different times fighting for this crisis already, where I've had people trying to hijack my truck and I was actually physically shot at. One of the representatives there asked, she told her story. She's an elected official, but because I don't have the rights to bring her name up in this, we're just going to say Miss Elected Official. She said she was going to church and she had 3 immigrants at her gate. And behind her was her husband and a family member in the car. I don't know who it was, but there were 7 more. And she asked the chief of Border Patrol, what is my rights? And she said, I chose to drive the car back up and get in my house and lock the door. They didn't leave. They were fearful to leave because they had immigrants at the gate. He said, well, it sounds like you answered your own question. You were nicer than I would have been. You backed your car up and you parked in your house.
Oh,
Being
my
told,
God.
if you there's castle law in Texas that protect people, right? But
Right.
it's a criminal investigation if you shoot these people. If they're attacking your family, we're not just saying shoot them because you don't like them on your property. We're talking about they posed a threat and they're threatening your life. What's your rights as a
Well,
rancher?
not only that, they're breaking into your land and into your houses. And you're being told, Mike, that you
I
cannot
treat
defend
like
yourself.
criminally. They asked me, did I touch this person? Did I have permission to touch this person? I go, you're damn right. I asked the guy. He said it's okay to touch him. I wanted to make sure he wasn't armed for my safety. What
But
if I would check the guy and he had a knife on him and in a split second slit my throat because I didn't take those steps? Or he slit my customer's throat because I had paying clients who witnessed all of this. They flew in
but
from Oregon.
but Mike, you were discouraged from touching any of the people that come to your property. Were you not?
Everybody was. There's many ranches, 250 people to be exact, state troopers, border patrol, everybody in that room. They all asked the question, what are our rights? With the city attorney was there, and he said, I'm going to tell every single one of you guys this, and you need to listen up. The best thing you can do is not interact. If they break in your house, how are you going to just sit there? They're being told.
We're in trouble.
Yes, we're in trouble.
We're in trouble in our Texas when you can't defend yourself.
And it's going to be criminal charges if they find them to be guilty. Because if they take a person's life out of protecting their own, you know there's going to be a criminal investigation. And in our world, it's they're innocent until proven guilty. But if there's blood on their hands, and that blood wouldn't be on their hands if the powers that be would make the decision that's right for our country, and that would be to protect us. Because I believe when they take the oath of office, they raise their hand and they solemnly swear to defend and support our Constitution.
Yeah.
And in Article 5, Section 4 of our Constitution, you know exactly what it states, that they will protect our borders. Yep. And it says nothing in about aiding the enemy. Doesn't say anything about that.
Yeah, there, you know, I mean, Mike, I just can't imagine. You know, I've been wanting to buy property, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was trying to run to the hills, but maybe it's not time to run to the hills just yet because this is getting out of control. And, you know, I'm not sure that, you know, if somebody broke into my house, I wouldn't be shooting because I don't know. I'm a female. I don't know. I can't, you know, it's not like I'm some karate ninja that can just kind of take them down. You know, I mean, that's why, you know, I have a license to carry. I carry because I want to be safe. If somebody comes and tries to hijack me, kill me, sexually assault me, hurt me, injure me, or my family, you better believe I'm going to shoot back or I'm going to try to defend myself in some way. You know, and so I just can't understand how it is that this county attorney and these people in this room full basically have told you this is not the first time, because when I was in Brackettville, the ranchers out there told me the same thing in Brackettville in Kinney County. They said, yeah, our, you know, the local you know, elected officials and also, you know, their judges and the people that were there told them the same thing. They told them, hey, it's better if you just stay in your house and just let them on by. And I'm like, they're breaking and entering your property, and you're supposed to let them go on by so that later on they could possibly go and assault and kill somebody.
Right. They didn't tell the people that they could not defend themselves. They didn't say that. But what they said to me that was very, very clear was that if you do defend yourself, you're still looking at investigation and potential jail time because that's a life. In the event even they're breaking into their property and these people are trying to protect themselves, the attorney didn't stand up and say, well, you're going to lose that battle. He just said there will be an investigation. And
so it's going to be okay. So let me ask you right now, have you heard of anyone, any rancher right now that has had fire or shoot somebody because they were breaking in or they felt that their life was in danger? Has anyone taken that stance yet?
I haven't heard a thing about it. Not yet. What I have heard is Jason Jones, the journalist for Newsmax. He's going around
Yes.
doing one of the stories that he did was off of I-90, literally pretty much right across from me. And in the opening parts of that video, there's a fence, and I recognize that property. It is literally pretty much right across the highway from where I'm at. So this gentleman that he interviewed was getting the same kind of traffic that we're seeing, same kind of action on the property. They're getting to his water sources, breaking things, and he felt his hands were tied. They're tearing up his fences. They're coming across his boundaries, and he felt like there's nothing he can do. And his family's had this place for generations, and he doesn't feel safe out there. Nobody feels safe. And I want Americans to be able to walk out, breathe the fresh air, lay in a hammock if they want and take in the sun, read a book. Those are the things we all find to do, right? But right now, people are going to bed with guns under their pillows. They're going to bed with something nearby that they know they can use for protection. They're taking extra measures to lock up their cars. When do we do this? We do this when we feel like we're being invaded. And that's exactly what these people are doing. They're planning for an attack, even though that it hasn't happened yet, because they're hearing the news and they're seeing the influx of ranches being invaded around them and the videos and the stories of what's happening to the farm next to them. And these folks are scared. They're scared for themselves, they're for the kids, and they're planning differently.
And if you listen to the stories of angel moms whose children, loved ones have been murdered by illegal aliens, you understand that, you know, these people are not all here to do good, you know, that they're just here for a better life. You know,
Right.
these people are here to cause harm. They are already criminals. So a lot of these illegals have been deported before, and they're just coming right back in.
So let me tap.
Um,
I want to tap on that. I got real statistics for you, Bianca.
mhm.
67 countries represent who's crossing our borders, not just Mexico. And I want it to be understood that the people from Mexico that have come across here that are contractors that build houses, shoot, some of them probably even built my house. These people come and they work hard, right? They work hard for labor. But we have the stats that I was given at the meeting was 2,000% more of these people crossing our borders are sex offenders. We've got murderers who have on their record that they murdered people, some of them multiple, in Venezuela and other countries. They murdered people. These are folks that country doesn't want. We're just letting them slide on in. The gate's open. That's exactly what it's like for them now. And they're coming over here, and if they have a record like that and they have habits like that, this is a small world. It's going to affect somebody you and I know.
Exactly. And just so, and I'm sure you heard about this, the 91 illegals that were found here in a house in Houston, that's the ones that have been found.
Right.
You know, 86 of them were male and 5 were female. Allegedly, one of the female did claim that she had been sexually assaulted. My, what can you imagine that? You know, the men were held in their underwear. Why? So that they couldn't run. Okay. There was people that were these people, and even then, some of the people that were in the house didn't want to be apprehended, so they were hiding in between the walls. And so the city of Houston did send in like their hazmat or whatever, and they tested these people, and 5 of them had tested positive for COVID. Now, mind you, 91 people in a house, and you have 5 people test positive for COVID. They suspect that they were going to have more that were going to be positive for COVID.
Right.
Yeah. So here's my point. This is why our organization have always advocated for the border wall as well as for legal immigration, because this is the exact same thing for the liberal left and the, you know, these Catholic charities that claim that they're helping these poor people. You're helping them by selling them into sex trafficking, child trafficking, just human trafficking, slavery. It's the modern day slavery. What do you think 91 people were doing in that house? They weren't there because they were waiting for their loved ones to pick them up. They were there because they are owned by the cartel, which Jason Jones talks about this. They all come in and you see them on the videos where they have the bands. The bands identify who these people belong to, what leader, what cartel leader they belong to. And therefore, these people go and they basically have a debt to owe, that they owe. They're not going to be let go. They're going to be taken somewhere and kept against their will, made work or do whatever they want them to, right? And so this is what, people have told me, don't you feel sorry for these people? I feel sorry for them that they are treated this way, which is why I advocate for legal immigration so that they don't find themselves in this position. So they're not to somebody. This is why. Do I feel sorry for them? Listen, I was like, I hope it was worth it for these 91 people. I hope it was worth it coming across that border just to be held like that against your will. They hadn't been fed in days. Tell me, is that really worth it? I don't think that's worth it. That is not pursuing the American dream, to be held against your will, not being fed. Men are being held in their underwear so they cannot run. They're being coerced. And let me tell you something. Don't think for 1 second that if those people, any of those 91 people try to or try to take over the Coyote, don't think for 1 second that they wouldn't be killed immediately.
They'll take them and their families. So let's talk about their debt. It's my understanding through several different sources that I've seen that they're paying thousands of dollars to get over here. They're taking flights, they're taking bus travel, they're doing whatever to get here, but they do have a debt, because let's say they only have $2,700 and that gets them on the plane or that gets them on the bus to get here. That these cartel members are saying you owe us 100 times this. So they have to go here in the US, get a job, earn that money to pay that debt to the cartel members. And if they don't pay that debt, I'm sure there's some pretty fine consequences they're going to have to pay. And it's not going to be something that they're going to...
Yeah, it's death, Mike, and the reason that they have their bans is because they track them all the way back to what village they came from. They track them back to what family they belong to. So either if they don't comply, or they don't pay up, or they don't, or not don't abide by any of their rules, it's not just their life, it's their family's life back home, wherever they came from. And so there is a clear and present danger happening here in the state of Texas. And I think it's insulting to have our governor play footsie with Biden about, it's all Biden's fault and this administration's policy. And then, sitting there saying, he literally just last week, Friday, I believe it was, put out a statement asking the sheriffs, to tell them how much it's really costing them, right? How much damage, because he's going to send a bill to Biden. Well, so Mike, you and I both, Biden isn't going to pay any darn bill.
Our border patrol is spread so thin that our state patrol is being sent to these areas. So I told you about, I went to breakfast there in Uvalde, and a state patrol officer and her husband walk in the door. And I'm not talking about my good deeds, but I did a good deed that morning. I bought her breakfast and her husband breakfast. And in the middle of that, those state patrol officers look pretty damn sharp with their cowboy hats on. And she took her cowboy hat off, and she was a Mexican gal and had beautiful black hair. And she looked at me she was just a beautiful person with a pretty face. And she looked at me and said, "I can't tell you how much this means to me this morning." She said, "There hasn't been a day gone by where I haven't been in a high-speed chase." And she goes, "Just before this breakfast today, I was on a high-speed chase, and it's just good to know I'm sitting around with good people and my breakfast is paid for." This is a woman that wakes up every single day, that puts that uniform on to protect and serve and uphold what's right for Texas. But she's not in her common place. She's not just out writing traffic tickets. She is literally on the the north end of Uvalde, and she is helping the Border Patrol agents capture these people when they are fleeing. So now you don't just see the Border Patrol show up at these things, you see lots of state patrol. And it
Right.
depended on what happens. If they swing a weapon, the FBI gets involved. And in one particular incident at our ranch, which wasn't one that directly affected me in person, but a guy pulled a 13-inch knife and swung it at one of our agents. And when that happens, our FBI gets involved. They detain him at that point. I don't know what
Well,
legal implications happen beyond that, but I know that they did tell me that the FBI does get involved at that point.
so I'm finding it interesting that the DPS are able to help where you're at, because what I've heard down in South Texas, over in the McAllen area, Edinburgh, Brownsville area, is that the DPS really doesn't have that much jurisdiction. All they can do is assist.
I think that
Border Patrol agent. What was that, Mike?
I think you're right. They just do exist. Border Patrol does all the processing, but they either direct traffic or they are there
Yes.
to be an extra body there to give comfort to these officers at the time. If they need to protect, they're ready. But Border
Yeah, because
Patrol,
I was told that the DPS and the National Guard that have been sent down there do not have authority to apprehend. That's
I'm
what I've
not
been told.
can't speak on that, but I do know I've seen their vehicles there. There's one other incident that I did not get a chance to discuss with you, and I would like to bring it out now. So
Mhm.
one other incident was, you know how this last school season, senior students didn't get a chance to graduate normally. They didn't
Correct?
get across the stage. This does have relevance. I'm going to tell you. My wife and I, we adopted 2 seniors, and we put together like a care package. We meet the family. We drop it off to them. Just so happens one of those kids' father was a professor at the University of Incarnate Word in San Antonio. And he goes,
Mhm.
Mr. Miller, I want to do something for you. And I said, oh, I'm not looking for anything in return. We wanted, his daughter was valedictorian of her class. And we didn't know that at the time we adopted her as our student that we're given to. And so they met us at the Buc-ee's gas station, those big gas stations here in Texas. We met in the parking
Correct.
lot, and we were keeping safe distance because it was still the time where everybody needed to be concerned about, mingling with people. And he says, we're going to adopt your business. And I go, okay, what does that entail? He goes, well, these students are on the last part of their semester, and as part of their graduation, they want to adopt a business and talk about how can they help the business do this, do this, do this. Short story, they all came out to the ranch. There was 4 of them. We had
Mhm.
2 guys and 2 girls that came out to the ranch. And
Mhm.
during that time, we even had an episode with illegal immigrants then. So the kids wanted to experience what it was like to work on the ranch. So they loaded corn into feeders, and they got a chance to feel like what a rancher and a farmer feels like, doing the everyday
Mhm.
tasks. So in
Mhm.
that evening, my wife and I, we sat on a blind across the prairie, and that prairie is like, 30 or 40 acres of just flat prairie where the animals come out and graze. It's a real fun place to sit and watch all the animals come in the evening to feed. And we put the
Mhm.
students on the other end by our pond, the water source, and one of the girls was in a tripod stand. So as it got dark, we saw some lights, and she texted my wife and I, and she goes, hey, Mike, are you guys spotting with spotlights down by me? And I'm like, no, we're across the way. And I told her, don't move. 2 illegal immigrants walked right underneath her in a tripod hunting blind. This blind is one of the ones that has the 3 legs that sits and the little chairs exposed on top. So
Right.
she moved. There's a mesquite tree that's kind of big that was around her, and they couldn't see her there, but they were walking through to get water at the pond.
Oh my
So
God.
Patrol. At that time, I had, I believe, at my gate, 5 or 6 Uvalde Sheriff's Department agents show up, 5 or 6 Border Patrol agents show up, some special agents that work within the Border Patrol. These are like the top dog guys that you know who I'm talking about. There's some
Mhm.
agents that are way up there. Those guys show up. We didn't
Mhm.
find these guys. They disappeared. They're wearing solid black. The next morning they staked out outside our property, and after everything closed up, we made sure to secure our guests that were there, the college students. They were definitely shooken up, but they stayed the evening with us anyway, and we had a good breakfast, sent them on their way. And as we were leaving to the gate, I noticed there was an agent sitting out there in a Suburban, and I waved him over, and I got a chance to talk to him, and he told me they caught both the guys. they did a stakeout. They caught him climbing the fence the next morning. So
Wow.
if you see something on your property, you definitely call it in, because these guys are going to
Right.
hang until early in the morning or late in the evening. But our Border Patrol agents, they see it every single day. And for us, it's like, it's one incident that we see, but they see it so frequently, they kind of know how to predict it. And so it's
Right.
very, very important. Get your local agents involved, give them a call, give them a chance to respond, give them a chance to do their job. Because I'm telling you guys, these guys are great. And if you want that closure to know that these people aren't on your property, the Border Patrol agents here in Texas, they're going to get the job done. And they did it for us. But can you imagine what it would be like to be a college student who's just coming out to the ranch for a simple, and you can go to my ranch's page and you can go through those pictures. You'll see those kids. And I believe I talk about it a little bit, or maybe I didn't on there. I didn't want to so much bring so much light to that at that time, because this was
Right.
about graduating school. It wasn't
Right.
about us having an incident on the ranch. But in
Right.
the they experienced that side of things. And I have to say they were quite fearful. And nobody should be able to go out and experience that. They should have had fun, and we should have been able to have a good time without that awkwardness that took place, because it
Right.
was, you got to know they're watching their back, and like, it's scary times. And this is just my story. Imagine every other rancher, every other farmer out there that's not using their voice.
I know. I know that they are very fearful, because obviously, they have to, like I said, they live there, and it's a little different for some of them to come out. Hopefully, maybe others, now that you've spoken up, will come forward and speak about what's going on with them, and what they have encountered and had to endure on their property. This really saddens me today. It was a lot. It was obviously a lot. I know you told me about another woman too that wakes up in the morning and finds illegals sleeping under her trees, waiting to be picked up.
Absolutely. She does. They're near the highway. There's like a big old pecan tree there, and one of them was laid up against the tree. He looked completely intoxicated. And in the other image, I'll send it to you, it looked like the other guy was defecating there. He had his pants kind of down, and it looked like he was, right in her front yard.
Disgusting.
And they're the ones left to clean up that mess.
So, Mike, you're going to start something that's Warriors for Ranchers. And
Absolutely.
How can they find you, and how can they reach you?
Currently, right now, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I have not made a ton of posts, but I can guarantee you, if I can get this whole thing downloaded, I video recorded it. If you have a way to send this to me, that I can actually get this up so the people that care can look and see and hear the stories, hear from your perspective. Bianca, I want you to know I have utmost respect for you, for what you've done. And I know your feet are on the ground. I know you are 100% American.
Thank you very much.
Flag behind me right now, and this means a lot more to me than just red, white, and blue. This stands for every first responder, every military man who ever served their country, every single person who cares about our country, who is no longer walking today, that's buried at the Arlington Cemetery, the men and women who fought before us, our forefathers, the people who represent America. That's what it means to me. And I know when you look at that, you see that, because I can see that in your eyes. I can see that in your heart. I love who you are, and I am very, very grateful that I got a chance to get on your platform today and talk about the issues that are the uncomfortable topics that our mainstream media does not want to talk about.
Right, correct. Well, we need more voices. We need people to talk about what's happening on their own properties, because no one believes it. Even when they did the bust here for the 91 illegals in the house, the neighbors were coming out and saying, "Oh my gosh, no, I can't believe this is happening." And, "Oh, this is such a nice neighborhood." And I just wanted to say, what rock are you all hiding under? Do you not know that this is going on? Because, believe it or not, even though that it's not the main topic in the mainstream media, and the mainstream media isn't shedding light, for the past 2-3 months, I would say, there's some of our media people are talking about the crisis at the border. I mean, they maybe not as much to where it penetrates, but I'm just thinking, how can you not know that what's happening at the border eventually creeps up, and this is how it affects you and your neighborhood in a suburban neighborhood.
Right.
And so, you know, as a 300,000 dollar home possibly, that's not here. I mean, for here in Texas, that's not a cheap place, and it's not on the higher end either, but it's a pretty much middle class suburban home. And here, yet both floors were filled with illegals. And
Right.
so I just found it mind boggling how people are not attuned to what's going on around them. They don't know what's going on in their surroundings or in their community, that they're that blind. I was appalled. But I will tell you that I thank you. I thank you for reaching out. I thank our mutual friend for connecting us,
Absolutely.
because I think it's important to talk about the things. And I'm very sorry that you got shot at. I'm sorry about what happened to your wife and your daughter on your ranch. You know, sorry that you all are going through this. And I think you said it today best when I talked to you earlier on the phone, is that if we somehow unite, and the more of us that we are together, the more stronger that we are to fight what's, you know, in front of us, and the bigger our voice will be if we work together. And so that's what we need to be doing, is definitely working together. I know there's a couple of town halls, more town halls that are happening in some of the counties, you know, that may not be exactly right near you, but they're closer to you than they are to me. That are definitely trying to, you know, those sheriffs are meeting the people, and definitely talking about. And I went with Jason Jones. I took him to Karnes County and Nueces County, and I'll tell you, we had a standing room only in Karnes County, and those ranchers and farmers out there were pretty ticked off with what was going on. And this was what, back um, April, I think I mean, it was probably early April, I think, or was it
Yeah.
the last of March? I can't even remember when I took Jason Jones now. It's been a
Yeah.
while. It might have been the end of March that we went, but I took him, and they were really upset, Mike, about what was going on in their community, and the fact that a camp was being built in Carrizo Springs. And then one that was right there up down the road from them as well. And so a detention center. They were really upset. So I know that this is an occurring thing. It's only going to get worse before it gets
I
better.
about that real quick. I told you I want to be the voice for the Border Patrol as well. I think it's very important for anybody and everybody who's watching this to understand that our Border Patrol agents did not build the cages that are in Uvalde County.
Hmm.
Those were built during the Obama administration. I want to just say it right now that Trump
Hmm.
didn't build, Biden didn't build them. Well, Biden was part of the Obama administration, so I guess he was part of that.
Right.
But
That's right.
these agents are being blacklisted. They're being called thugs. They're being treated as if they're doing something wrong. These Border Patrol agents are doing what they have to do at this point. What would you do if 500 kids come knocking on your door that need food and they need water? And
Hmm.
speaking of which, in Uvalde, the HEB is absolutely ransacked most of the time. The HEB staff, I'm going to stand behind HEB and say I love that grocery store. They had a team of
I love.
auditors trying to make the store what it should be. But that food that feeds these immigrants have to come from somewhere. And that little town has been hit so hard. Bianca, they're buying the groceries to feed thousands of people out of that grocer. And so when the people who live in that city who deserve to be there, they're having
Right.
a hard time getting the simple ingredients they need to make a meal. And that's because our government is using that grocery store to feed the immigrants that are being housed. But when it
Right.
comes to kids, these Border Patrol agents they're taking care of them, they're nurturing to them, they're feeding them. There's a playground there where the kids can play. But is it really their job to be a babysitter to children that now we're having to try to find their families, and do their families want them back? That's a question we don't know. And why are they really here? And what have those poor kids gone through to get here?
That's right.
These
Well,
kids that need to be heard as well.
you're right. And I thank you, Mike. I know we're edging towards really late night here, Central Time. I thank our viewers. We've held a steady, being that it is late night. I'm very surprised at how many people are actually holding tight. I hadn't done, like I said, a live or an interview in a very long time, Mike, but I thought this was very much needed to get out. I do interviews. I have my own radio show, like I said, but I don't, I just hadn't done my own on our own platforms, and it was really time that we got this message out. And I know there's many more like yours. And hopefully others will be encouraged to come speak out. And I think that we need to take your voices down to, to the Austin Capitol and start knocking on some doors, of our elected officials. And remember that I told y'all that the bill, and let me just read it again before we go, guys. Friday, May 7th, which is this coming up May, is the deadline for Representative Chris Patty to move HB 2862 concerning the border security and the completion of the border wall to a hearing phase and then to the floor for voting. We need to call him at 512-463-0556. We also need to call Governor Abbott at 512-463-2000 and stress how important it is to secure the border and complete the border wall. We need to call their offices every day for the next a couple of days until we get to May 7th, because we need to make sure that we are doing something. But Mike, I thank you so much. I thank our viewers. Please share this, guys, tomorrow when you wake up. Please share it through all of your channels, through everything. We're going to upload it to Rumble so that I can share it on Parler. Therefore, but thank you, Mike, so much for coming on. I know it was really late night, but thank you very much. And I know this won't be the last time we talk.
No, plug our event. You and I are coming together in Dallas, Texas, the 13th through the 16th, right?
That's right. So I know I'm like, I was just about to say that. So I'm glad you said it first. Guys, you guys have seen it. Faith and Freedom, the big, huge event being held by Pastor Brian Gibson and Matt Couch himself. There is going to be an enormous amount of speakers and panels and trainings and breakout sessions and a concert by our very own Chad Prather on Friday night. It's going to be a very good time up in Dallas and Allen, Texas. Please come and join us for some very good information from a lot of our activists and influencers from across the country. Come together so that we can definitely work together to make sure that we take back our country in 2022. And Mike, let's keep an eye on Arizona right now as they are doing that recount. All eyes are in Arizona. Today, Michigan judge ruled in favor of Trump, saying that the governor there it was unconstitutional for her to change the voting laws without going through the appropriate procedures. So things are looking up. What does that all mean? We just don't know until it's going to take time. Please be patient. Who knows? Maybe by next year in January, we will have Trump back in office after we find out that the election was truly stolen. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. But I know that the most important thing is that we just had local elections going on May 1st, but coming up in November, there's going to be more city municipality races that are going on that are local: school board, city council, commissioners, sheriffs, you name it. Guys, get involved, become precinct chairs with your county executive committee. Get involved one way or another. We need all boots on the ground. We need everybody we can get. Run for office, take back our local offices so that we can be a more impactful and powerful voice to the higher ups that seem to not care about us anymore. So we need to start taking care of ourselves at the local level. That's what we're up against. But anyway, I thank you guys so much. Thanks for listening to our rant. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Sheena. Oh my gosh, Sheena. And thank you, Misty. Misty says she, I think, is from Uvalde County as well. She says, thank you so much for sharing this. We thank you so very much, guys. Please, God bless you. Stay safe out there. God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America. Absolutely. From Bianca Gracia again, from Latinos for America First, Latinos for Trump. And I always say, Mike, peace out.
Peace out.